All right, so I'd like to welcome Michael Martino on the podcast. It's good to have you here, man. How you doing?
Good to be here. I'm doing pretty well. Yeah, a little tired, but happy to be here.
So I feel like you have a really interesting academic history. Like you were at Hawaii,
hmm
then you went to Cal Poly San Luis, and then you were at UPenn.
hmm
Can you just speak to like the twists and turns in your like career
Yeah,
or like
yeah,
your academic career so far?
yeah, absolutely. So I grew up in like a lower middle class household, so we weren't struggling to make ends meet necessarily, but money was never in excess. So I always needed financial aid to go to places. I like took the city bus growing up through school. I had hand-me-down stuff. I had my first cell phone to like after I graduated. So case in point, like money was always like a key driver
Wait,
in
you didn't have your first cell phone until after you
until
graduated high school?
after I graduated high school. Yeah.
No way, that's
Yeah.
crazy.
It's because my parents were like, you don't need a cell phone because you see all the time, which like I was taking a city bus all the time. I was like, it's kind of dangerous. Don't you want to know if I'm like having an emergency? But I
Yeah.
thought, you're a guy, so it won't be an issue. I don't know. Get any case, yeah, I didn't get a cell phone until after. So money kind of determined where I ended up going. So I never when I finished high school, I hadn't left Hawaii ever at that point. Like I'd only ever gone to other islands. So I got into a few colleges, but I couldn't afford to go to any of the ones that I got into, other than the University of Hawaii, which was the local state school. So in-state tuition made that very affordable. I went there for my first year. I was about 19 at the time. And I really wanted to leave Hawaii. I
Yeah.
was getting really sick of being in paradise, which I don't think people normally think
I've
about. But
never
like,
heard that before. Yeah, that's a sentiment that I've just never heard.
yeah, you stay at one place forever, right? It's
Yeah.
like, and I really any place can get tiring after like 19 straight years. So while I was at UH, I was trying to find ways to leave for a semester or something like that. That's how I found out UH participated in this like exchange program that would
Mm.
let me go to other schools and pay UH's tuition while doing a year at that other school. And Cal Poly was one of those schools.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So I ended up at Cal Poly through that program.
Yeah.
So I was doing all the Cal Poly stuff, but I
Yeah.
was paying UH tuition, which is really
Amazing.
awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. So was UH tuition like that was a lot more manageable, it sounds
Yeah.
like. Yeah.
Right. Because it was all in state. So in
Yeah.
state tuition, state schools, they're generally like they're nothing like private school tuitions,
Yeah. No, I
Um,
went to state school too. I respect it.
yeah.
Nice.
See,
Yeah.
what's up.
I know what it is.
It's
Yeah.
like it's you
Bang
can
for the
get like
buck. It's a
yes,
bargain.
exactly.
Yeah.
I
Very nice.
really don't think college is one of those things to like bust your ass over for in terms of like what's it called? Student debt. Also, I don't know. Is profanity like not a thing for
No,
this?
profanity is okay.
Okay, all right,
Yeah.
cool.
I should have briefed you. I didn't brief you on like you'll be okay. I can cut
Okay,
anything out like that we
okay,
don't want.
cool, no problem.
Um,
So I make sure
yeah.
you don't have to like start everything over from
Oh yeah.
scratch.
No. No, you're good. Uh,
But
okay,
yeah,
so that's how you got to Cal Poly.
yeah. That's how I got to Cal Poly. And then while I was at Cal Poly, I was like, I really like the mainland. I want to explore it a little more, try to spend more time outside of UH, outside of Hawaii. So I applied to a bunch of schools. I went through the college application process again during my sophomore year,
Is this like a
prioritizing.
transfer kind of thing? Or
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. Basically the same thing as applying to college out of high school. It's a common app. You just
Okay.
like go through it. The problems are a little different and
Uh,
like some of the procedures are different, but
okay.
for all intents and purposes, it's the same thing. So I did the Common App again, prioritizing schools that were good for financial aid, which I should have done in high school, but didn't know any better at that point.
Hmm.
So I applied to schools that, according to their calculators, would be good for financial aid. And one of the schools I got into was UPenn, and they gave really generous financial aid that basically made it cost as much as like going to UH. So it was like,
Wow.
I might as well just go there.
Yeah, they made it make sense.
Yeah,
Sounds like, yeah.
exactly.
Wow, and it seems like you were in labs like all across the time. Like
Mm.
you were always really interested in research. Is that true?
Yeah, I really enjoyed AP biology in high school, and I think I wanted to do research as early as then. And in college, when I came to UH, I had a brief stint in this like gene editing lab for a
Hmm.
couple months, and I really enjoyed going in and like applying what I'd learned in my lecture to something in the real world and like asking questions that didn't have answers yet, mostly because they don't have answers, so you can't be wrong. But You also don't know if you're right.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a double-edged sword. But yeah, I got the research bug really early on, continued pursuing opportunities throughout college.
Yeah, because I've seen like I think I saw like you have had like what 5 different labs?
Something like that, five to seven, I think, over
Yeah,
the course of, or from like sophomore year of college to when I before the year before I came here.
that's different, man. That's crazy. So, do you feel like there's been any benefit in having like that breadth of experience in terms of like having all these different labs that you can kind of like all those different lab research experiences?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, each lab has different skills that I was able to pick up and engage in for a little bit. I don't have them all now, but like if I needed to, I don't know, map something in ArcGIS, I could probably relearn that pretty quickly. Or like
Yeah.
if you need me to synthesize an organic compound, I don't remember specifically how to do it, but I've had to pick it up. I could probably do it in less than a day. And
Yeah,
then seeing like
okay,
the
man.
different, yeah, dude, okay, that's something we all had to do.
Don't remind me.
Yeah, sorry, didn't mean to traumatize you on the pod. But yeah, and then we picked up yeah, also seeing the different cultures, because different labs are different types. There are different priorities, different conversations. You know, like the different journals are different people. Like different conferences are different, are important to different
Yeah,
people. Outcomes are different. So just seeing the contrast between different research environments is really helpful.
yeah. I had like a lot of lab experiences too. Like I was in like maybe 4 different labs, and I felt like now one of the things that you get kind of good at is like choosing the lab you want to be in.
Mhm.
Do you feel like you're like kind of like an expert when it comes to like vetting labs? Like, oh no, this doesn't seem right. Like this is just something's off here or something like that.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think I've gotten more attuned to picking up things I don't like doing, behaviors I don't like seeing, you know, like PIs I don't want to work with, which is something that I've had to pick up over the years. Like I remember first labs that I one of the first labs I worked in, I don't know, like I was really desperate to just like do research and the PI
I know the
was
feeling.
yeah, dude, you just want to get in there, but like
Yeah,
PI was never present. If I ever had questions, you'd have to go to like a postdoc, and the postdocs are busy. You have to look
yeah.
stuff up online. It's like I'm getting very minimal guidance here. So like I look for that pretty readily on. Like I'll ask before I even join a lab or an interview, like, what's your mentorship style? Like, what are your priorities? How often are you here? Things
Hmm.
like that.
Yeah. Good question to ask a PI.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. What's been like your coolest PI across all your different labs? Like, what's your like the PI that you're like, dang, I like would like steal a few things from you.
Daniel Bercovici at Cal Poly Slow. He was
Daniel
Daniel
Berkovici?
Bercovici,
Okay.
yeah. Mr. Bercovici. He was the I guess the first longitudinal mentor I have. He was my OChem lab teacher in second to third quarter.
Hmm.
And he ran an organic synthesis lab. And honestly, he was just a really cool guy. He would crack jokes in lecture. He was always very supportive. He'd always encourage us to like think critically, but he wouldn't be pushy about it. It was
Yeah.
like if we needed help, he'd give help. And he was like a fairly young person, which I think helped to like get. He was always in the lab too. Like he'd always see him. He'd always be like sitting at his desk while we'd be like setting up glassware and running experiments. So he was always available. I could always talk to him. He's
Hmm.
always available by email too. So I got a lot of FaceTime with him. He was a super great mentor. And I think he actually, we still keep in touch. I try to check in every year. I'm gonna go try to see him actually in the next couple months with a friend of mine.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, yeah. But
Did he
he,
like your med school like letter of rec?
yeah, he wrote one of them. I think all my research PIs had to give a letter of rec for MD PhD applications. I think general MD PhD programs ask for letters of rec from any lab you've been in. So he gave one of them.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Don't know what it said, but
Good things, I'm
hopefully good
sure.
things. Yeah.
Yeah. I think my favorite PI would be I had this one lady, her name was Jessica Tyler. Um and like I knew she was really cool because she was actually the person who put me onto IF,
Oh yeah.
intermittent fasting. Yeah.
No way.
Yeah,
How'd you do that?
so she was I want to say she was like in her 40s, but dude, she was in really good shape. I was
All
like,
right.
this doesn't there's something that doesn't compute right now. And then she ended up telling me, "Oh yeah, I fast like on certain days." And then that's when I was just like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna do IF."
Wow.
Yeah, and so
She
like
inspired you.
she inspired me. Yeah. So
That's awesome.
yeah, that's kind of how I got on that. And she was cool. She was like this British lady. But she lived in Harlem.
Cool.
So she was like, really just like for the people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did she go to the gym too? Would you ever like see her over at?
Yeah, like we worked out once, and it was like
Yeah,
one of those
dude,
hit
yeah, it's
hit
awesome.
classes.
Me and Dr. B did that too.
Oh, really?
I think that's the hallmark of a good PI, so you can go to the gym with them.
That's actually so true. What did you guys do? You guys hit like chest day or something?
No, dude, I had this like really intense ab workout from like a high school coach, and like I had him do it. I
Yeah,
remember 'cause he was still like my teacher at the time. So
yeah.
I was like, he said to me, like, Michael, if you make me do this, I'm going to drop your grade. It's like, oh, okay, well, you're still doing it. Sorry. Yeah, good
Oh man,
times.
you took him through a core workout? That's tough.
Yeah, you can go to the gym to me. You're gonna work out.
I mean, that's like that's a way to get people to hate you right there. That's a way to get your great jobs. Okay. And so yeah, and then so you decided to go from after did your academic kind of undergrad work, you decided to do MD PhD. What was that decision like for you? What kind of factored into that? What made you decide to do MD PhD?
So I was planning to do graduate school, I think, when I finished my sophomore year, because I really liked research and
Mm, yeah.
I knew I wanted to do research. Um, but at the end of sophomore year, and I think at the end, so the summer after my sophomore year, I did this like 10-week research program in this lab that was
Where is that at Harvard?
yeah.
Okay.
That was the first time that I did like the it was called the Harvard Research Experience for Undergrads, a 10-week program sponsored by the NSF. And I was in the lab of Dr. John Eisenberg, which was a great opportunity. The research there was super cool. My mentor there was really insightful, really helpful, really supportive. Um, but I felt like a lot of the work that I was doing on paper I knew should have impact, but some of it seemed really esoteric and didn't seem like it would actually go out into the world, which was a big concern of mine. So I think underlying this want to apply what we learn is like the drive to bring something out into the world and make a difference in people's lives.
I feel that.
And I think with research, it's really easy to investigate something that's interesting that doesn't really have a practical endpoint. And so
Yeah.
I really wanted to find something that had like a practical endpoint. So I felt a little unfulfilled with doing just research. On top of that, there were some things going on at home. So before I went to Penn, I actually took a year off in between my sophomore year and junior year, went back home, did a little bit of soul searching while I was there, like busked around, did some music for a bit, tried teaching, tried tutoring, and then I also kept doing research. And then I started shadowing during that time because I was doing research for the medical school. To figure, well, I'm at the medical school, I might as well do some shadowing while I'm here. 'Cause my PI at the time was a physician, and she could like
Mm,
hook me up with other physicians that were at the Queen's Medical Center. So I shadowed, and I really liked what the doctors were doing. And then from there, it becomes, I think, pretty copy and paste pre-med story. You know, you see what the doctors do, and you're like, wow, that's really cool. I want to do
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So I think one of the first physicians I shadowed was Dr. Kuo Chang, who I think at the time was one of the interim directors for like the internal medicine program at Queen's Medical Center. Could be wrong, but he served in some faculty capacity like that. In any case, I shadowed him, and he like walked me through the like process he used to like go from basic cell biology to like explaining what was going on with the patient. And like I wanted to like be able to do that myself, you know, like have that mental framework and that foundation to apply knowledge the way he did. So at that point I was like, wow, okay, maybe I want to do medicine. And then I did a little bit of looking around, and then I'd heard ramblings of MD PhD. I hadn't seriously looked into it at that point in time. It wasn't until I started doing research and shadowing where I started to read more and like what these programs entailed and where they were. And when I felt like I understood that, I was like, okay, yeah, that's what I want to do. This is probably what I like. I know it's going to be a long time, but I know eventually this is where I see myself going. So that's what brought me to apply into MD PhD programs.
And then you said like where it could see you going. Like what kind of careers are like available for students if they do MD PhD?
A lot. One of the nice things that I've learned about MD PhD training is it's a very flexible career path. Um, you are encouraged, I think, as a trainee to engage in research in some capacity that and you to do research that's, you know, going to translate to something that's clinically relevant. most of the training programs encourage you to go into academic medicine afterwards. So you can have a lab and also see patients and do like an 80-20 split, 80% of your time doing research, 20% of it doing clinical work. I think that's the like bread and butter traditional route. But a lot of other routes have opened up in recent time in industry and biotech and startups that try to recruit MD PhDs out of graduation to do similar work. What's the best way to like have an impact? It's not really clear, but those are some of the ways you can go. Most would go into academia, um, but you can also go into industry and startups and things like that.
Which one are you gonna try and do?
I'm probably gonna go academic right now. It's just
Oh,
that's
okay.
like it makes the most sense, but I have some experience in like so one of my like major undergraduate like research experiences was developing basically a commercial platform for like sepsis diagnosis. Whole point of being is like there was this device that my PI and I would had like designed, and we were almost going to bring it to market. And I really liked that idea because it was something we worked on for a few months. We're like, dang,
Yeah.
3 months and we can already like bring this to the clinic. That's pretty
Wow, that's
sick.
really cool. Yeah.
So like I really liked being able to operate on that timeline, and like we weren't as dependent on federal funding mechanisms. We could go into like VC and startups and things like that.
Yeah.
And so that's still on my radar. So I might go in industry. I sort of have this dream of like discovering something in graduate school or developing some sort of platform that I could like turn into something I can bring to the clinic as soon as possible. That's what I would love to do. What that looks like yet, I'm not entirely sure, but I get a little closer every day, I think. So I don't know. I think academia has a lot of support systems in place to like support that vision,
Hmm.
but I might just pull a 180 and try to go and do a startup. I don't
Yeah.
know. We'll see. I got to figure out what's most compatible with my vision and where I want to go.
Okay. Yeah. And like, I guess if that is your goal, like kind of realizing that, like the MD PhD, like they support you, right? It's funded, right? Or
Yeah, yeah. That's what generally MD PhD programs are fully funded. So the MD part is funded and the PhD part is funded. Where that money comes from varies. A lot of programs have what are called medical scientist training programs or MSTPs. Those are MD PhD programs that receive money from the NIH basically to support their trainees all throughout in some capacity. And some money will come from the university, some will come from the lab. USC Caltech's program is not an MSTP, so our funding comes from USC and from Caltech, basically. And where it comes from in those universities varies. Some of it's from the laboratory, some it's from grants that they have. I don't know
hmm.
exactly the exact breakdown, but for you as a trainee, it's all funded. So honestly, it doesn't really matter at your level, like where it's coming from, right?
Yeah.
Because it's just you get a stipend every month. You don't ask where it comes from.
Yeah. You're getting money.
Yeah,
That's all that
yeah,
matters.
yeah.
And is it like is the stipend like enough to like what is it? Like it's like
It's
2K a month or
yeah, it's only about a little under 3K a month. It's
okay.
it's like for me, I think is livable in
Yeah.
Los Angeles. And
Yeah.
I'm coming from like I don't have any other financial support. I pay for everything. I pay for my rent, my car, and groceries, and I still have money left in savings. Um, Granted, I'm not like traveling all the time.
Yeah.
Although I guess I could save up for a trip if I wanted to. Um, but yeah, so I think for what USC Caltech gives, it's a livable stipend. And I think it's also fairly standard. Other programs will give more compensation, but like I think anywhere that does an MD PhD program that funds its students will give you a livable wage. It
Okay.
might not be
Yeah.
that far off the like poverty line, but in theory, it should be enough to like let you live comfortably.
Okay. I'd like to circle back to something you said earlier. You mentioned like you and your mentor had like a made like a device, like took it into like almost market in like three months, I think. Can you just speak more about that? And like what was the device? How did you guys make it? Um, yeah.
Yeah. So the second time that I did that Harvard program, I was exposed to what's called microfluidics, basically like a whole field of engineering focused around literally making little channels that you run fluid through. And what's nice about other than like the tunability and like the scale in which those operate is which you can mass produce them very easily. And so I kind of knew what was possible to do with that field of research. I came back to Penn and my PI was telling me he had this idea or something that he wanted to try for a device that he wanted to bring to the clinic, but he wasn't sure what would be the best modality. And I was like, hey, have you ever heard of microfluidics? Because I think a microfluidic device can do exactly what you want to do. So we started workshopping ideas, and I was pulling from the literature a lot, device designs that were microfluidic device designs to like inspire. Basically, so I can't go too much into it because it was like a
It's under
confidential
patent or
thing.
something?
I don't know how far it's gotten, but we,
Okay.
we were on that trajectory by all like as what before I graduated. But a lot of what we were discussing was to be between him and I. But it was supposed to be a microfluidic device that helps critical care physicians understand when patients are immunosuppressed or not after they've undergone septic attacks. So
Oh
it's pretty
wow.
well known that like
Yeah.
once the patient undergoes septic shock specifically, a little while afterward, they might be immunocompromised, they might not be. And so the treatment that you give them depends on what state they're in. So you need to know, but oftentimes providers won't. So the device that we wanted to bring to market was one that would help like, provide data to inform that. And it was really cool to like I put the initial design together. I was able to fabricate it at Penn because they had a microfluidic device
How'd you
design
put the
center.
design together?
It was in what was the name of the program? It
What?
was in AutoCAD, I'm pretty sure.
Okay. Yeah, that's
Um,
like the main like engineering program, right?
mhm, mhm.
Do you have like engineering, like
That
an
was a
engineering background? How did you do that? What the heck?
no, I was a bio major in undergrad. But I took a lot of math courses because I always really liked math. I was a bioengineer at the start. I think I wanted to go into engineering, but I think when I decided I was going to do MD PhD and also like to graduate in 4 years, I couldn't do engineering, so I ended up doing
Mm,
biology. But I always had engineering interests.
yeah. Because you've always kind of had like the idea of like kind of like making platforms and like
Yeah, yeah, I like
creating
practical
things.
things.
Yeah. Like translating kind of like what you learn in class into things that you can actually do.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
I love that. Um, okay, so I guess that's interesting, man. Like with the whole MD PhD, I think it was something that was on my radar too. But I just, and I think you kind of were hinting at this a little bit, but I guess for me personally, and like the kind of like the people that I want to like help the most within like this whole like field of medicine, I don't necessarily think they see like, those like cutting edge innovation. I don't think
Hmm.
they see like a lot of the like new cancer drugs. I think they have like a lot of barriers to entry.
Mm,
And so for me, I think it was about figuring out how we can still innovate without necessarily using like cutting edge insights.
mm, mm.
Because it sounds like I feel like with the PhD, like you're kind of working at the cutting edge, and like the idea is to translate that cutting edge, those insights, like the things that those novel things that we learn
Yeah,
into
yeah.
like
I think that's like
therapies
kind of
and
a
diagnostics.
soft if not hard requirement of like the PhD is like you need to be up to date with literature, right? Like what's out there. Generally in the basic science side, which is also like further removed from clinical sciences. Um, so yeah, I definitely think that's an important part of like what we're trying to do.
So what it sounds like, yeah, so we've kind of talked about how like, devices leveraging kind of like scientific understanding to actually create things that are like tangible that can improve people's life. Like for you, what skills do you feel like you still need to like cultivate to do that? Is it just kind of do you have all the skills you need and it's just like finding like kind of an insight or
Yeah, I don't think I'll ever have all the skills I need. I feel like every time I go into a lab, there's like a new thing that I need to know that's going to
yeah,
take me forever to learn.
yeah, I hear that.
Um, so I would actually say like coming to that realization that you'll never know everything and being okay with that's a super important part of doing research or doing innovation, just like being in the forefront. It's like, no, you're not going to know everything and that's fine. You just need to figure out what you need to know right now and learn that and figure out how to learn it fast. So like if reading paper is going to take you forever, find videos online or talk to somebody who can walk you through it. Don't waste time over like weeks trying to like onboard a new skill because that's just not efficient. Um, yeah, and I think if there's ever something that you don't know or a question you don't know how to ask, like take advantage of the resources that are available to you. Look it up online, see who knows what, and talk to them. Help with them, like help walk you through and get to the point where like you can understand what you need to know to like push whatever barriers you're facing.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Feel like is there like a space that you really want to innovate in that you're like
Yeah, so
Or is there like any ideas that you have that you're like holding out on or anything like that?
yeah, I'm really interested in cellular immunotherapy, which is something that I was exposed to during my gap year before coming to USC. So we learned a little bit about this in class, like CAR T cell immunotherapy, where basically you take a patient's blood, you isolate their white blood cells, you modify them, grow them out, and then reperfuse them. And in theory, these new blood cells are better at fighting cancer because their T cell the receptors have been modified to be like more specific to certain tumors.
Hmm.
But there are challenges depending on like how effective that can be varies depending on the type of tumor that you're looking at. So there are several strategies that have been implemented to either make the extraction process more streamlined or more importantly make the modification process more effective. Platforms developed to identify novel mutations or what are called like unique mutations to like better hone in on to modify T cell receptors on so they can find those in tumors, ways to like make tumors more immunologically hot so T cells can get into the tumors more effectively. So there's a lot of activity in that space. Right now, I think what I'm looking to do with my PhD is to develop some kind of platform that makes T cells better at going in there and killing tumors. That's what I really like to do. There's a lot I need to learn. So like understanding the basic biology behind T cell targeting and modifying, as well as what it means to, like what's implicated in hot or cold tumors. But I think over the course of my PhD, I should be able to make reasonable progress there, especially with all the research that's being done and that's been done so far in that field.
Yeah, I mean that's such a cool field. So, and then if that's like what you get your PhD in, which is kind of like maybe cell biology, immunology,
Yeah, I think
how
that
would you integrate that with the clinical?
yeah, that's a good question.
Is it like onc? I guess that kind of explains it.
Yeah, when I was originally like devising this career path, the vision I had was like, okay, well, maybe I can work on developing these platforms that make CAR T cell immunotherapy a bit more effective, and then I can be the doctor at the point of care that's administering CAR T cell, enrolling patients, or getting them involved with that treatment. And then might be like, hey, we have this device that might make, if they're qualified, this might make you more effective, or that this platform might make this treatment more effective for
Yeah,
you. I don't know if that's like a realistic thing, but
yeah,
that's kind of the big idea where I'd like to go in the
I
long
love that.
term.
No, I love that. Yeah. And I feel like as their physician, you're like kind of in a like uniquely like no one could do that. Like you would have to be their
Yeah.
doctor to kind of like be able to say like, oh, this is like something that's for you, like to offer it to the patient. So
Right.
it's like,
Right. Because I know their clinical course, be familiar with what data is available, whether or not whatever particular cellular immunotherapy they're getting is compatible with whatever platform that I have, and like I can really streamline those conversations with me and the patient and all those provided with their care. So
hmm,
that's what I like to do.
yeah,
But
no, that's great. So let's just hop right in. So I know you're a huge advocate for training in medical school. I know we've talked off air about how you train, and I've seen your videos on Instagram of you. What do you do? You do like one rep maxes? Is that one rep maxes you do?
I usually put my one rep maxes on my stories. Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen you do those. So yeah, like how do you balance like what are you doing currently with your training? What does your training look like?
Right now I'm doing it's supposed to be a 4 day program. It's a 3 day program. It's the NSUNS 531. So you like Google it, all the information.
NSUNS 531.
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
never heard of this. Okay.
It's a pretty intense program. I don't it calls for like it's like 4 days a week. There's two major lifts and it's like 9 to 10 sets per lift and then
Oh my
accessories. So I
geez.
don't do that many because I don't have time for that.
Four to wait, how many sets?
It's like 9 sets for the main two lifts, and then there are like 4 or 5 accessories that are like 3 sets each.
Okay.
So if I were to do the full program, that would be like an hour and a half in the gym. It's just too long. So
Mhm.
I'll do like half that for the two main lifts, and then like 3 sets for the accessories. So it's like the
Okay.
program that I'm doing.
Okay. So it's 3 days a week and it sounds like it's a full body split. It's like you
Yeah,
do full
it's
body every day and it's like
oh no. So it's like upper body, lower body, upper body, upper body, lower body, but I like don't do the second lower body day because like the one is enough because it has you
okay.
do like either deadlifts or squats depending on the week. Um
Okay. So okay, and then what compound lifts are you doing?
bench, see bench, squat, deadlift, overhead press. Here are the major ones.
Okay. Nice. And what about like in terms of like, so it sounds like you have your training. How long have you been doing this program for? Is it a new one or?
No, I think I started this program in my senior year of college, and then I really liked it. I wanted to keep doing it, but then COVID happened, and all the gyms shut down, so
Yeah.
I didn't lift for like a year. And I got back into it, picked it up again, and I've been doing it since before, a little bit before we started medical school.
Wow, dang. So
Yeah.
you've really been like you've been pretty adherent to the same program,
Yeah,
which is
yeah.
pretty cool. Yeah. Um, and so it sounds like it works for you. You've seen good results with it.
Yeah, yeah, which is why I haven't changed it. Like I haven't hit a point where like I am not getting stronger or like my strength is going down.
Yeah.
So I don't see any reason to change it, especially when I like bulk versus cut. Like I don't like to change the workout routine because then I can't really tell how my strength is changing. I like to have a comparison to between the two phases.
Yeah. So it sounds like what's your like fitness goal or what's your goal like in this area? Is it kind of just like to like continue to like gain muscle, lose fat, like like kind of recomp, or is it yeah, what are you going for?
Yeah, and I don't know about recomp, but definitely just straight up cut right now. So I'd like to get down to around 10% body fat because I don't think I've ever been that lean in my life. Um,
That's dope.
earlier this year, I when I started medical school, I wanted to bulk because I was already like in that trajectory because I don't know, diet in medical school was not that great, but I was like, well, I'm getting stronger, so I might as well keep going. So like
Yeah.
my goal in first year was to get to a three plate bench. Actually, when we had those like professional check-ins with like our coaches, I remember specifically typing out to like Dr. Sun, my goal is to bench 315 pounds. Then we had our coaching meeting. She was like, I have no idea what that means, but I hope you could do it. And I did it. So I did that and I was like, all right, great.
Nice.
I went all the way up. Now I'd like to go all the way down. So I wanted to like try to maintain the strength that I had built up,
Yeah. What weight
get
did you
really
get up
lean.
to?
I was like 217 at the peak of my bulk.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it was pretty chunky. Like I couldn't do cardio. It was like
Yeah.
really, really hard.
I saw you, no, you really went for it, which I respected. I like because we're in the same ICM group. We're in the
Yeah.
same like clinical group. So I like saw the phases of you. Like I was like, oh, this dude is bulking for real. Like we did talk about it, but I was just like,
But
he's like getting it.
I had one pair of pants, and at the peak of my bulk, I could not fit those pants anymore. And that's where I was like, I can't do this
Bro,
anymore.
I
Like
remember I saw this is what I knew. I was like, he's committed. Because I saw you pull up in sweats one day. I think you had like a polo, like up top, and then you just had sweats.
that's all I
I was just
had,
like, all
man.
right, yeah,
That's all I
let's
had
go.
left at that point. Yeah.
So now, but I guess like 10% for you, what would that look like? What weight is that? Or
Yeah, I don't know. I have a calculator
okay,
that I kind of follow that would tell me where it is.
yeah,
And I do measurements every weekend just to like see where my trajectory is at.
yeah. And you're using like I think I've seen we've talked about this before, but I think you're like MyFitnessPal and just kind of tracking calories and
Oh no, I just use my Google Sheets, dude. Because
oh, you just use Google Sheets,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
No,
Because
that's so much easier.
the UI for like my fitness panel things, it's really annoying. I don't like
Yeah,
dealing with it, so I just like
it's a lot of work,
yeah,
especially like if you eat the same things every day. It's just like kind of like it's just harder than it has to be when you can
yeah.
just kind of drag and drop.
Right, right. And the Google Sheet that I have has like a workbook that I found online that like it calculates like your weekly TD and caloric intake, and it's a little thing
Mm,
that says, okay, well, if you want to say on, you can also put in your like your starting weight and like your goal weight, and it'll say like, okay, if you want to reach this weight by this time, you need to like eat this many calories. So I can kind of like gauge where I need to be every week with that and not really think about it.
so when would you like based on that timeline, when would you get like 10%?
It was supposed to be this November because I thought I was like around 13%, but I like messed up I found out this week and I messed up my measurement. So it probably won't be till like December or January will I finally get there.
Damn,
So when
dude.
we come back for clinicals, but by the time I'm back, I'll be set. Then I
Heck
could
yeah.
just made. I think that's also what this was kind of like a long-term thing, but I think when we started medical school, I knew when clinicals hit, I wouldn't really have time to like do ups or downs in the gym because you just wouldn't have that time. So like I want to be done cutting by the time we start rotations because I
Mm,
won't have as much flexibility then.
I see, I see. Yeah, no, that makes sense. I was wondering because I was like, oh, that's an interesting time of year to like go 10%. Like
Yeah.
in the like the dead of winter, I was like, oh, this dude's different. Like
Yeah, I know. It's usually booked, but like, I'm going back to Hawaii at that time. So like it
it
won't
is
really
kind
be
of yeah.
winter. Yeah.
it's like sunny year round over there, right?
Yeah, yeah. Winter's just like a cold summer, it's not like
Yeah,
not a
it's
real
not,
winter.
there's no season really.
Exactly.
It's just tropical.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Um, so like how do you balance like training with like med school? Like what advice do you have to people? I know I can like kind of speak to this, but I'd also hear like what's your like what's it look like for you?
It's time management, really. Like I usually will just at the start of the day or like the night before, I'll make like a schedule on like Google, like literally like Google Docs, and I'll like type it out. Like, okay, I can spend this much time at the gym, and then at this time I'm going to study this amount, and this time I'm going to study this amount. And I try to stick to it. I don't always. Sometimes I'll like come back from the gym and be like, I don't feel like studying today.
Yeah.
In which case, you guys have to like accommodate that later on in the week, and like
Yeah.
that maybe that means you don't go out to this thing at that time, or maybe it does. And if you're like, again, I think one of the nice things about pass fail is you can make time for like these lifestyle things that are important for maintaining your mental health and your physical health. So
Yeah.
I wasn't always like top of the class in our exams, but I was also able to like stay healthy and do the things that were important to me
Yeah.
and still pass, like still feel like I was understanding material for our preclinical exams. So, sometimes you like have to make sacrifices with things to like go for what's important to you.
Yeah, I agree. I think like making sacrifices is super important. Yeah, I mean, I feel like yeah, it's a sacrifice. Just kind of like not getting so like being okay with passing and then trying to kind of like make progress in the gym. I feel like progressive overload is like I know I've seen you practice it obviously because your little Instagram stories, but like I feel like a lot of people don't necessarily understand what that is. And I know like when I was like coming up, I didn't know what that was. So it's just like that idea of like continually always doing more in like some aspect.
Yeah.
And so like practicing that and then kind of just having like a schedule that you can stick to and like
Mhm.
a program. Like if you can have a program, like you had a program. I feel like if you don't have a program, it's like tough to like stick to it and like it's tough to like track it. Like I'm
Yeah,
sure
you
you
just
track
go to
all
the
your
gym
workouts and
and like
stuff.
you're like you don't know, like, are you getting stronger in this muscle group in this exercise? Like, when was the last time you did this exercise? You don't know because you don't have like document like tracking when that was. So again, like I will always advocate for having like a plan for things and having some sort of like thing written down so you don't have to, so you can have a longitudinal understanding of where you're going, and also you don't have to like burden your brain with that information because it's recorded somewhere.
Yeah. And I feel like I think that's like a huge like a piece of advice. And like I'd love to hear what you think about like just starting small. Like not like going like I feel like living to fight another day. Like I know like a lot of people who like get into working out like they like are like they go like full tilt. Like
Mhm.
they'll like do 5 days a week. Like they'll do and I saw my best results like 3 days a week.
Mhm.
Like or in like or they'll do like just like within a workout like the intensity will be so great that they're like decommissioned for the rest of the week. Like,
Yeah, I like, I don't think I would outwardly advocate for that approach to like lifting or just things in general. I think the best workouts are the ones you're going to do and the ones that are going to work for you and the ones that will show progress. And so going to the gym 5 times a week, one, I think is going to eat up a lot of your time, especially in medical school, and probably won't get you as far as you want to go, especially if you're a beginner. Um, Same thing with like going to one workout and just like blowing it out once a week, but then you're too tired to like do any of the things that you said you had to do, and you keep doing that, responsibilities keep piling up. So again, like striking that balance between like what programs are going to help you make progress while you can still maintain the other things that are important in your life, like school
yeah,
or relationships, friendships, things like
social,
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
agreed. Um, do you have any like mistakes that you would like can you give the people some hard won knowledge like about like through training? I know I made a lot of mistakes doing this stuff, so
Yeah, I tons, man. I have this like shoulder injury that every time I do like an overhead press, you know what? In theory, we know what muscles it's probably we should know what muscle it is, but like there's something in my rotator cuff that's like not.
we definitely talked about this one day in
Yeah.
anatomy lab.
Yeah, I'm sure we did. Um,
Sits.
yeah, there's something in there that has not been right. And so like sometimes it'll get really bad, and I've gotten better about recognizing that and then taking time off from the gym, I think it's really hard to stop the routine you're in, because once you're in it, you want to keep going, you want to be
Yes,
consistent.
I feel you on that.
Yeah, so you want to power through, but like I've had injuries in high school, and I remember like you get injured, that will take you out for much longer than if you just take one day off or like a week off.
Yeah.
Um, so recognizing when you're injured and like taking time for yourself to go recover. If you need to take a week, then take a week. It's better than like pushing through and having to take a month and losing a bunch of strength from other muscle groups along the way.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with that. I think like managing your fatigue,
Yeah.
like, because it's like weird because you're doing this progressive overload thing, right? And then you're getting stronger, but also you're getting more and more fatigued. And so like being able to kind of like acknowledge that and like be aware of that and then like accommodate for that. I know for me, like last year there were times where I was like not really getting the adequate sleep and things of that
Yeah.
nature. And just like not taking care of myself to like the level that I probably should have been. And I just noticed it in my workouts. So just kind of having like I feel like kind of just playing off your advice, like having a way for you to kind of just like know with yourself and like obviously too sometimes just taking like a longer like sustained break and like coming back to the gym is like very essential because
Yeah, I mean that can actually promote growth. There are
yeah,
tons and tons of papers that support that. But I also think that's a good thing to point out, and a mistake that I've oftentimes made too. Like there'll be some days we'll go to the gym and I won't perform as well, and I won't realize, it's like, I'm running on like 6 hours of sleep, and I have an exam coming up. I'm super stressed. I'm not really like in the headspace to do this right now. But sometimes I won't realize that, so I'll feel like, damn, I like ate all this food. I prepared. I should be stronger right now. So learning to like step back and like think about why else might not be doing so well, so you're not as critical, self-critical, is really
yeah,
helpful.
yeah. And I feel like tracking goes really well with that too because like if you track like the days you go then you can kind of get a sense of like, oh wow, I've gone for like this many days in a row, even if I'm only going 2 times a week or 3 times a week or 4 times a week.
Mhm.
Like that, like fatigue builds up to the point where it's like it makes sense that you're not going to be able to perform as well. And like having that like record kind of allows you to kind of be able to gauge your body and know where you're at. Because I feel like a lot of times, like I know for me, like I wanted to get like a six pack when I was like in like high school,
Yeah.
but it just never happened. And like and I guess you could like relate.
Yeah, man.
Look at this
I
now.
was there. I know the dream. I Every year I was like, this is the year I'm gonna make it
It's
happen.
the year,
And it
exactly.
never did. Never
Around
did.
January, right? And like I feel like it was because I at least for myself, like I would set like this unrealistic goal of like, oh, I'm gonna work out every day. But I guess like my advice to people is like having your goals based in reality. So like working out every day, like for me was just not was unrealistic. That's why I didn't achieve it.
Mhm.
A realistic goal will be achievable, and just start there and like stack the days, and eventually you'll look like this guy, Mike. I could see veins up the
Yeah, man.
wazoo.
Yeah, man. I also like. I think the one thing is like diet. I always slept on diet, man.
Yeah,
Like that's why in high school I never got anywhere, because I would
yeah,
think like I just got to keep working out and I'll get there,
so
but my
true,
diet
so
would never
true.
change. Like this is, I think, the last couple of years the first time I really like that bulk I was on. I was eating hard every day. Like I
Yeah,
was making sure I was at a surplus, and that was the first time I actually saw myself get to like a 3 plate bench that I never thought I would get to.
yeah,
And now like going the opposite direction, like very closely staying at a deficit, like I quantify, like quantitatively and qualitatively seeing progress. Like I can see it in the mirror and I can
yeah,
see it in the numbers.
yeah,
Um, and it's I would say that's a majority coming from like what I'm eating and like how much I'm eating. So I think if anybody wants to like go in any direction, either get really strong or get really lean, like you gotta get the diet right first.
agreed.
I'm not a coach, but like I've found, like after like almost like 10 years of like meandering in this field, like the only real progress has come from when I've started to play around with diet. Like you can lift however much you want, but it's not going to get you anywhere if you're not changing what you're eating and how much you're eating.
Yeah, I think that's like such a good point too. And I feel like for me personally, like having like the diet aspect, and I feel like personally, like I think it's always good to do a bulk, like no matter who you are,
Yeah.
just because like you kind of build like the more muscle mass, and then you kind of raise your like metabolic level,
Mm-hmm.
and then so it's just like harder to gain fat at that point because you have to consume more calories. So if you could just give us like we've been in med school for about 1.5 years so far.
Yeah, we have. It's crazy.
I know it's crazy. like more than 25% done. Uh, what have been the highs and lows during your this last little bit of time since I guess last fall we started?
Highs and lows.
Yeah.
High is definitely the people. Specifically within our
Give me
class.
like specific experiences.
So like I would say like my best friend here is Lydia Lynn, who's another MD PhD student, and
Hmm.
like we became super close friends like from day one, and like in during first year, which had like a lot of fun experiences,
Hmm.
like from all the like different parties we went to, different like went to like a petting zoo once, and that was super fun. It's just like there have been all of these fun interpersonal interactions. They've mostly been parties, but like just I things I wasn't
Yeah.
expecting to happen in medical school. I think I entered here thinking it was all going to be very pre-professional and all about cultivating that identity, which it is in part, but there's also all of the stuff that happens like on the weekends and on Fridays. So getting to be able to like meet people outside and like engage them in fun ways, explore LA, that's also been super fun. So I would say those are like where a lot of the highs have come from.
Hmm.
Lows, probably. Mm, wow, like probably like, the expansive lists that have come up. I say honestly, I would say most of the lows have come from like just exam stress. Um,
Exam stress, man.
yeah,
It
yeah,
will kill you.
yeah. That it will. That it will. I probably. Oh, I guess like the most in one. So I actually failed one of our block exams.
Oh, me too.
Yeah. So I failed our like our GI exam.
Oh, me too.
Uh, that's what's up.
I think I
That's
saw
what's
you
up.
in there.
Oh,
Did you
we were
enter
on a Zoom
intake?
call? Yeah,
Yeah.
like Stevenson was, which is so weird that we could do that over Zoom.
It
I
was
was,
so strange. I
yeah,
was like, I didn't know that this was a thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
I know, it was very odd. But like when I remember, like when we got that email, it was during repro, and I think at that point I was like, okay, I need to like recalibrate because I don't think my priorities were where they needed to be. I should not have failed an exam. It's okay to be barely passing. It's not okay to fail. So I was feeling pretty bad around that time.
Understood.
Um, plus there are other like things going on, like
Yeah.
relationship stuff
Yeah.
and like
No, that's tough.
life stuff.
That's tough.
So balancing that is really hard, but it's doable. And I think you come out a better person from it. You like
Yeah.
learn how to manage your time more effectively and traverse
Is
like,
that what you learned from it? Like, what did you learn from like that season of your life?
yeah, I one, study more, do more practice exams, and
Hmm.
like don't just do Anki. Like if you don't understand something, do the other things you need to do, watch videos and stuff to learn it, and like make sure that you really do understand something. And then also know that the other dimensions of your life don't stop going while med school's happening. Relationships still need to be navigated very carefully, and like chores still need to be done, and you need to like allot time for all of that. So just know what know where you need to put your time and stick with it. That's basically what it is. Just continually get better at, I try to be good about time management. I think that's something that like has come up at different points in this, because I really
Yeah.
do think that's a super important part. Is like the key to like getting ahead in just about anything.
Hmm.
And like you can practice time management for your entire life, I think, and still need to like figure out
Yeah.
where your priorities need to be. And that's okay. I mean, that's part of it.
Yeah.
But like as days go by, you get better about figuring out where time needs to be, where you can afford to spend it.
Yeah. No, I love that. I think time management is one of those skills that you can always keep getting better at for sure. Thank you for sharing that, man.
Yeah, no worries.
Well, that's it for today. Thank you again,
My pleasure.
MCM Michael Martino, for coming through on the pod. Um, from the Keck School of Medicine, MS2. Where can people connect with you if they want to connect with you?
Oh, I hadn't thought about that. Where am I these days? I'm on Instagram, as you mentioned. So you can check out my One Red Maxes there. Posting maybe once a week now. But that's like at Michael T Dim. Always available by email. I'm assuming there's gonna be like show notes or something like that. I can like
Yeah.
put my email. I can send you my email, and or you already have my email, so you can put that in there.
Yeah, I'll put your contact info in the show notes.
Yeah, cool. And then I've got a LinkedIn and stuff, but I think they can go to the show notes as well
Okay.
because yeah,
Yeah, no, we'll definitely make that happen.
cool.
All right. Well, thank you for coming
Thank
and
you for
thank you guys
having
for
me.
listening. This has been what I learned today at USC.